Hello everyone, I hope everyone's doing okay. Many people have asked me to start a YouTube channel, and this is me starting my YouTube channel, and I'm going to take this opportunity to rant about my current mindset and the approaches I'm taking to training at the moment. And the biggest one at the moment is I am dropping tracking. Now, I started tracking all my sets and all my reps since January of this year, 2025. And only as of late have I found that I am performing and doing better without the tracking. Given tracking is useful, I'll get onto that in a second. I just want to talk about my background, and how I used to lift and why I am dropping tracking. Now, to start with, I think many people started like me. They started as essentially bro splitters, where you would hit a muscle once every 7 days or around there. So one times frequency, and you would have a split something like chest, back, arms, legs. Maybe split up the legs on 2 days, maybe add a shoulders day in there if you're not already hitting it with the chest and back. And from there, I moved on, and I saw the big science-based movement on social media, and I was influenced by it, and I started to learn more, and I started to be influenced, and I influenced my training, and I influenced my progress, and so on and so forth. But it came at a cost. Now, when I was doing my bro split and everything, I enjoyed it immensely. It was the most fun, or some of the most fun I've had while lifting. But it was a decent amount of progress, but it was considerably less than when I was more science-based. But at the same time, I was also getting injured a lot. So, fun, yes. Results, meh. Science-based approach, I really got sucked into it for a while. I wasn't on the full body every other day, although I did try it. It didn't appeal to me much, but I was, trying to do the unilateral, super stable, single joint exercises, cuff here, seatbelt there, and it worked sometimes. It doesn't work a lot of the times, or it doesn't work some of the times. Depends how you use it. But it did take the life out of lifting. I'm going to be completely frank. I know a lot of people who agree with me, and a lot of people feel the same way when I say when you take that super science-based approach, you're only in the gym for a little bit, go in, stimulate, get out, write everything down, and it's a huge numbers game. You take the life out of lifting. You stop enjoying it. You stop, lifting with intent. That was a big thing, lifting with intent. And I started dragging my feet through the gym, Something I thought I would never do is go through the gym just going through the motions, I'm just trying to get it done, Man, I have 2 more sets here, I have 3 more sets there. When is this going to end? And that's something that I wasn't used to. It's something I wasn't doing. But all of a sudden I was. And I was thinking, what could the issues be? My carbs are high, I'm drinking my water, I'm hydrated. There's nothing mentally stopping me. What is it? And I realized every time I was going into the gym, I was going in with the mindset of, and this is where my issue of tracking came in, where I was like, I need to do better than last time. I need to do better than last time. And that's not a bad mentality. That's a good mentality to always try to improve or want to improve. But it was in specific tracking and tracking my weights and my reps and everything like that. The biggest issue was I was so obsessed with numbers. If you're like me and you can get a little obsessed over numbers, tracking can be a little harmful. That is because you are basically going to do anything in order to hit that weight or that rep goal. Given, I would break down form on exercises and, all this other stuff just to hit a weight. You practically lose sight of what the point of lifting was if you're just going to go in, lift, and just use momentum and use any other external variable that you possibly can to get the weight up, except what is the target, which is your muscles. And this isn't necessarily a tracking thing, this is a mental thing. So just clarifying, I am not against tracking. I think it's extremely useful, especially in the right settings where you can distance your mind from the numbers. I think can be immensely useful for beginners in order for them to grasp and understand how their body works. It greatly helps you understand if you're recovering on time. If you can track your workouts and your reps and your sets, and you can understand the volume that you're doing, and if it's too much or if it's too little, that can help a lot. But when it gets to the point where you understand all of that and you're going to exercises and you not improving or progressing from last session is getting to you mentally and is ruining the rest of your workout and potentially the rest of your day, that is where I would say, okay, you can probably back off, because you understand your body, you understand your recovery, you don't necessarily need to track everything anymore. Take a step back. You understand. Now, I used quotations on progression because I wanted to get into this point where progression in the gym, especially on weights and reps, in a short period of time, isn't necessarily progression, i.e., you're building muscle. The best analogy I can give this is if you were on a diet and you're trying to lose weight, your day-to-day weight fluctuates. Everyone knows this, whether you had enough water, whether you went to the bathroom, whether you had enough sodium, carbs, etc., etc. It can influence your body weight day to day. But that's not something you necessarily get hooked onto. That's not something you let get into your mental state. Rather, you take your weekly, your monthly average, and you see, is there a downward trend if your goal is to cut? Is there a downward trend? I think, personally, that is also a beneficial way to approach tracking. Understanding that over time, longer periods of time, not just session to session, you should be getting stronger, adding reps or adding weight, given you're doing the same form, same exercise, etc., to the best ability that you can standardize things. Of course, things are going to fluctuate here and there. Somebody might have that machine. You might have to go do a different machine. You might have to do something beforehand, and it might influence it. But over time, on average, you should be getting better. If not, there probably is another issue that you're not addressing. But an example of this would be, you are currently on a certain exercise and you're getting X amount of reps. The next day or the next session comes and you get +2 reps. Given that day you had excellent sleep, excellent carbs, fully hydrated, you're motivated, you're comfortable, everything's going well. So you got +2, remember that. The next session comes, you are tired, low food, low water, you just had an exam, your mind is crazy, you're just feeling like trash, maybe you're lifting late in the day, and you just feel tired and fatigued, and you regress 1 rep. Now, on average, you gained a rep, so you technically did progress. And in the moment, you technically regressed. And what I'm saying mentally is, the fact that you saw that you wrote a 7 instead of an 8, you're going to, if you're someone like me at least, you're going to see that number and think, man, I regressed, something's wrong, I'm feeling bad, I'm feeling weak, I lost muscle. And it never stops, and it influences the rest of the workout, influences the rest of the motivation and your ability to perform for the rest of the session. Consequently, reducing stimulus, consequently literally reducing the rest of the ability for you to do good, and it just has a negative effect throughout. And it's sad because the reality is you probably did progress, but the fact that you're so hooked on that one number and you're not seeing the bigger picture where you stand back and you take everything as a whole is what could be limiting a lot of people. Again, if you're someone like me who's obsessed with numbers. If you're not someone like me, tracking is amazing for you. You don't care if you may have regressed for 1 session, etc., then you do you. But I'm just talking about my perspective and why I'm personally dropping it. And that is kind of my perspective, as I explained. And what I'm doing instead at the moment is because I use tracking to understand my body, understand how much I can recover from, understand how much I can do. I've taken all the good elements from it, and I am incorporating some of the elements from my old bro era. No, how are you lifting like a bro again? Oh my god, you're gonna regress, you're gonna shrink. Oh really, it's not that deep. My point is, with my bro era, is I'm bringing back a couple of training techniques. I'm not necessarily just going for reps, I'm not necessarily just going for the number, I'm going into my set with intent. That's the biggest difference I found, where the goal of my previous sets when I was tracking was going for a rep, going for a weight. You know, I had a different goal in mind that took me out of the zone. But when I changed my mindset and I left the book and the pen at home and I said, I'm going in to hit a set, I'm not going in to hit a number, that's when I could lock in far better. And I was able to perform far better, it felt like, at least. And I've been doing this over the past couple sessions, couple weeks, and I just find it to be far more enjoyable. And obviously I'm not going to be able to tell what the results are within a couple sessions, but I can say that the fact that I can lock in good, and I'm still technically doing the same quote-unquote science-based things. I'm still training smart, I'm still training well, I'm still training, I'm still recovering, I'm still coming back, but I'm dropping some of it and I'm moving towards the moderate side. So this is how I like to think of things. I like to put it on a spectrum where you have bro and you have science-based, and there's a mini, spectrum in between where you kind of have the moderate lifters, and I find that to be the best place to be. You could be on either side, but I don't believe the extremes to be very useful. If you want to be there, you can be there. I don't really care. But what I'm saying is there's a spectrum within the spectrum that is useful, and wherever you lie on that spectrum is obviously personal preference, but I think it's to be the best, where you take elements of the bro, where you're lifting with intent and passion and whatever, and you don't mind doing something that isn't very stable or isn't extremely science-based, but you enjoy it and you're able to keep at it and you're able to stay consistent with it. But at the same time, you're not being an idiot, and you're training smart. You're using your brain. If I'm doing lats, I'm not only doing a sagittal plane row where I'm doing this movement. I'm also doing adduction where I know the lats need it if I want to be able to maximally grow the lats. That's how I'm personally seeing training at the moment, and I thought it would be useful to explain this to a lot of people who may be stuck up on the science-based part of things and are losing the spark that they once had, which is, honestly, it's quite sad, but it comes back once you drop some of these elements. And yeah, that's mostly what I wanted to talk about. It's just the fact that, if you are deep into the science-based thing and all the tracking and whatever, and you're finding that you are not enjoying the gym as much, take it as a consideration. But at the end of the day, you do you lift however you want to lift. I just wanted to come here and explain my thoughts and rant a little bit, but I'll let the rest of these clips play. I don't know if there's much left. This is 14 minutes long. Holy yap. But yeah, let me know what you guys want to see. I'm only yapping about this because it just came to mind and I didn't know anything else to yap about or to include in this video. If you want to see just training clips, let me know. If you want to hear more yaps, let me know. If you have any questions, let me know. But yeah, thank you and peace.